the county decided to start regulating that. And circling back, that's where Mark and Megan and we saw an opportunity with that regulation and how it connects to real estate. So what should you expect? So you get a listing. It's out on County Road 220. It's going to have a septic system. You know, you've got your Edgemont Ranch, Dalton, you're in town, you know, Elmer's Court. There's certain areas that have the sanitation districts, but the majority of our area, you're dealing with septic systems. And first and foremost, the first question that we ask, you know, any property owners, but that you should ask your seller is, you know, are they aware of the system? Do they know where it's at? And have they ever had any issues? Have they ever had any backups or any blockages? And that's one of, when we do an inspection, you know, that's one of our questions, because we want to know, has there ever been any past failure to the system, which could possibly shine light on something else going on there. So if, I don't know how, maybe at some point, Heather, I know you have the San Juan Basin site. So on there, if you go to all of this information I'm going to share with you is readily accessible to you guys. But if you go onto San Juan Basin Health and you go to this, you do the,
you just went quiet. You still there?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yep. So right there. So if you click on that green bar, find existing permits. And then that first one, search for a permit. And then you can enter in the address. So, yeah, there you go. And now you have a listing coming up. This is going to put you ahead of the game of so many realtors. If you do this like even prior to your listing appointment, in my opinion, and then you go, because then you know you have that added information. You have an idea. Now, imagine putting a blindfold on and throwing a dart at a dartboard. That's about what you're going to get when you click on this. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just written down that there was a permit applied for, but nothing's really there. But the house was built in 1975. So that leads me into where Mountain Septic comes in. My first shameless plug for our business is, you know, by knowing this information, having this info up front, you know, we can help, you know, get you work through the process so the property can sell. So that site, you know, if you have some time, search around on there. It's great if you have a property coming up, but that's like your starting point. Where's the septic at? If you had any issues, and then the next piece is, you know, what is it permitted for? So it's very common to have a permit where someone built a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom home. It's the septic, you know, in 1985, they permitted it for a 3-bedroom home. And then in 2000, someone else bought it and they were like, you know what, we're going to add a master bedroom on over here in the corner, which they did. No one said anything. And then they built a garage with an apartment above. So now you have a 5-bedroom house that's permitted for 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean instant failure with your septic system. However, what it does mean is you can very easily overload your septic system, and your tank size is going to be based on bedroom count and household use, as well as your soil treatment area and that overall size. Hey,
Aaron,
yeah.
I just wanted to back up because I just realized, so once you get to that, if you actually clicked on the permit where we were, you can bring up the permit. So I touched this and then this comes up and it shows you what you got. But sometimes there's a, if you don't know where it is, sometimes there's a map, right?
Yes. So this is great. So start at the top. Like this is what I love to see when I pull these up. So this breaks down. You've got, the owner's name, the address, up in the top right corner. That's the year that the permit was given and the system was installed. Then you go down, and you've got a bunch of engineer number, so the septic tank, 1,000-gallon tank. So 1,000-gallon tank, that's going to allow for up to 3 bedrooms. 1,250-gallon tank is going to be 4 bedrooms, and 1,500-gallon tank is going to be 5. Is kind of the general rule. And then you've got this final disposal, how many lines, the length, the width. So that's your soil treatment area numbers. So, they have 2 lines that split out. There's going to be a junction box, and there's going to be 3 rows. And then it looks like it's about, 12 feet by 30. So that's roughly 360 square feet, I think, if my math is right, for your soil treatment area. But yeah, and then they've got that. I didn't read that below. So anyways, so that kind of breaks that down, and then you scroll down below, and this is now part of the requirement with San Juan Basin Health that we do as an inspection to add to the file. They want a map so that someone who is not familiar with the property at all could show up and find the soil treatment area. Well, looking at this map, that just gets you to the property.
This was to my property, so I don't know what happened to the map. They obviously didn't scan it in,
Yeah.
I'm at fault.
So now with that said, they only make so much of this public facing. So you probably have a larger file that, so as an inspector, I reach out, or as a homeowner, or as the listing agent for the homeowner, you can contact Kara Yankee, or Janke, however you say her last name, Kara at San Juan Basin Health, and they probably have a larger file on there. They'll probably have a map, but it's kind of shooting in the dark on what you find with some of these. So that that was a pretty good. I've seen those permits where it has the homeowner's name, the address, and then there's nothing else filled out, and it says engineer to submit final report, and that's it.
Yeah.
So again, that's so that's all part of it. So what makes the system up to code? So I touched on the bedroom size, and ideally, the reason for that is, just imagine if you're filling, you turn your faucet on, you're filling up a cup of water. If you turn the faucet on full blast, you're going to fill it up quick, but water's going to go everywhere. So if you relate that to a septic system, if that soil treatment area is designed for only a certain amount of flow, and say 3 bedrooms, and you have a 6-bedroom house, you have your main house, it's 3 bedrooms, and then you added a 2-bedroom guest house and a garage with a studio apartment above, and you're Airbnb the studio apartment, and you have renters in the guest house, and you and your wife or husband, you and your family and a couple kids are living in the main house. On average, an adult sends about 70 gallons of water through your system every day. And so, the engineers, when they design these systems, they're factoring all that in, and then they're taking into account, where are you located? Are you somewhere out on the mesa that's primarily clay? Is that the soil you're working with? Or, is it more rocky and you're up by Perth? And so that's going to factor in how big your soil treatment area is. They're also going to have other factors that break down, some of these lots, Luis, I know you've dealt with some of this, you've got these super small lots up by Perg that you're building on, and it's you're very limited on where they can put that septic tank and that septic system, because there's setbacks off the property lines. And if there's, any natural drainages or streams, running water, neighbors' homes, Is there a well on the property? How are they getting central water? So they play all that into account. And that's when you start running into, they have the ability to shrink that soil treatment side, square footage, if you add other options. So I'm going to kind of segue into another piece of what is very common that you'll find in a septic system that is missing. It's one of the most common repairs, but an aerator that looks like this, and it sets down in your tank, and this guy spins and shoots oxygen out into a middle tank that allows bacteria in that tank to breathe and then feed on the solid waste and help break that down. That will diminish, that like cuts down on your square footage. So you could have like, you could need 600 square foot soil treatment area. You throw one of these in and they go, well, you really only need 520 square feet. Where was I going with that? So this aerator is one of the most common repairs that we find when we do an inspection. And you know what? I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. So on San Juan Basin Health's website, you can find the transfer of title inspection form. If you ever wanted to just kind of familiarize it with you, but this breaks down like, it's about a 32, 38 point checklist that we walk through to see what's going on. So my evaluation, I walk up, I locate the tank, I access it. Is the cover above grade? So the tank lid is, there's going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 access points on top of your tank, depending on the size and the overall design. You're going to have a lid that covers your inlet port. You're going to have a lid that covers your outlet port, and then 1 or 2 lids in the center, one for pumping and one to view the center baffle. So if you're, when these concrete tanks were made originally, you put that lid on, you bury it with dirt, it's watertight. That thing's great. Well, you should have your tank pumped every 3 to 5 years, depending on the age and use of your system. So I come out, I dig that tank up, and one, there's that work, and I'm going to charge your seller for me to dig that lid up. And then 2, I go and bury that lid again. I'm not getting, that lid's never going to have that exact same watertight seal as it did the first time they closed it. So all this stuff behind me, these are risers. And so we'll glue one of these rings onto the top of the tank and then stack these up to where your access is now above grade. So you guys have probably seen these green lids sitting out, in the yard, out back behind the house. This is what San Juan Basin and me, as a newly found septic pumper, wants to see. Because I can now undo 6 or 8 screws, pop this lid, and I have access to your tank. I can see that everything's flowing into the tank and out of the tank properly, and I have easy access to pump the septic and solids out. So in the event that I see that it's not above grade, that's an immediate requirement. So if you get this listing and they're like, yeah, my tank's out back, it's buried, it'd be wise to let them know, cool, well, you're going to need to bring those access ports above grade. There's no way of getting out of that. So the next is we run an operations test. So the next is I'm going to check and see if surface water can infiltrate the tank. And that goes back to those concrete lids. I just did one this morning where they had one port had a riser on it, and that was to pump it. But the outlet port didn't have a riser. It was buried. It was only under like 12 inches of dirt. But when I dug it up, it was obvious there was not a good seal, and dirt, it kind of fell into the crack. But anytime it rained hard or there was snow melt, water was going into their tank. What can also then happen is plants, roots can grow in there. it's just not a good thing. So I'm going to check to make sure, you know, that we want that tank to be watertight. We also want to see if there's any indications of past failure. Usually a homeowner is going to know, they're going to remember if their septic tank backed up. However, sometimes it's a rental or they just don't know. There are those homeowners that miraculously know absolutely nothing about their property. It just is what it is. So that's not so much a pass or fail. We just make note of that in the inspection. We then do we check the solid and scum layer. This guy's clean. He's our backup. And it's basically a clear tube that we set down into the tank. And then we kind of plug the top, we pull it up, and we're going to measure your solid, scum, and liquid level in your tank. So you want a properly functioning septic system that is in use. You want that solid and scum layer to be no greater than 33%. Once you get above 33% of the solids on the bottom and the fats, oils, and grease on top, that center area, you start losing capacity, and the efficiency of your system starts to cut down. And then the likelihood of fats, oil, and grease or solids working their way out of the tank and into the soil treatment area, essentially, becomes greater. So the tank we did this morning, they had an emergency pump out a year and a half ago, and it was primary. I mean, they were at like 10%, but they needed an inspection, and in order for us to fully complete the inspection, one of the items is having the tank pumped and inspecting the inside of the tank. So they had to have it done regardless. But in that case, if you just had us come out to do a site visit, and I'd say you wouldn't need a pump. But that's the next step of our inspection. Then we're going to check if there's an effluent filter in place. Some tanks have an added filter that is connected to the outlet baffle, and that just is it filters out that much more of any floating, what's the word I'm thinking? Anyways, just get more solids from entering the soil treatment area. If you don't have one, there's plenty of tanks that don't have them. You're not going to fail the inspection. We just make note of if there is one or not. If there is one, we'll pull that and clean it and make sure, and that's if your tank has one, it's something that you should have inspected and cleaned yearly, just to keep up that efficiency of your tank. Then we run an operations test. We're going to run a minimum of 100 gallons of water through your tank. So this is where it gets fun on our end, because there are vacant homes that have been winterized and there's no water. Ideally, the best case, the one we did today, the homeowner was home. I showed up. We timed how long it took for me to fill a 5-gallon bucket in their tub. I was like, all right, that works out to run 100 gallons. We need to run your tub. We need to turn the faucet on and run it for 14 minutes. So they run it while we have the lids open on the tank, and we're watching that water come into the tank. Make sure that the level in there is at stasis. It's a static level. It's not rising up. That would indicate a clog, but you're going to see a little bit of a rise, and then we're going to watch it exit the tank. We run that through. We check off that your tank is good to go, and then we step out to your soil treatment area or your lagoon. We see what's going out there. Did that 100 gallons, is there a crack in the pipe? Is your distribution box? So if, let's see. Sorry, bear with me. So you have your house, you have your tank, So you have your house, goes into your tank, and then it goes into your soil treatment area. And that soil treatment area, that little box right there, is what evenly distributes the effluent into those 3 lines. If you're overloading one line, you're going to oversaturate a portion of your soil treatment area, and it's just not going to be operating efficiently. So we check that. Those usually have speed levels on it. But if I show up, and sometimes an installer could have put that in incorrectly, and it settles out like that, and now it's all running out to one side, that would be cause for repair. Usually the repair that we've come across so far is adding these speed levels. They're like caps on the end that you're able to adjust so that distribution box fills up with effluent liquid and then evenly distributes into those lines. So we're going to check that is all where to go. We're also going to see, is there any serious erosion? So if you think about it, let's say that distribution box was uneven and water's flowing into one side continually for 15 years, and it's flooding that one line for 15 years, you may have like unnatural erosion. We're going to be looking for unusual vegetation. A common sign that you have issues with your septic tank is very lush green, saturated areas in your soil treatment area. You don't want that. And then there are other septic tanks. I touched briefly on ways that they being installers, engineers, San Juan Basin Health, can cut down so you can fit a large system on a smaller piece of land. You will have like siphon chambers, pump chambers, aeration chambers. Aeration chambers is what I showed you for the bacteria to breathe. Well, the siphon and pump chambers usually are designed so that you are sending a set amount of effluent into a soil treatment area and not overloading it. So we did one over by Norma Ingman's place recently on Jared Nixon's listings down in Florida Vista Estates.
River Valley.
Yeah.
Florida River Estates or whatever.
Florida River Estates, thank you. And you're close. It's right there on the Florida. So the groundwater, the water table is a little higher right there. Plus, given just the size of that lot, they had a much smaller soil treatment area. So it was designed to where the tank would come, you would fill into the tank, and then it would flow into another chamber that had a pump in it. That would rise till it hit a certain point. It would trigger an alarm that would kick the pump on, and it would pump that chamber dry, essentially dosing the soil treatment area. Whereas your very basic system, water flows into the tank and out of the tank at the same level, constantly feeding your soil treatment area. So when you have a siphon chamber or a pump chamber that is dosing your soil treatment area, that's another step that the inspector or us, we have to walk through. So is there power? One, does it work? Okay, are you watching it function? And if it does not, is the pump bad? Does it need to be replaced? Is there no power to it? They are also asking that we confirm they have different floats. So when you're going to have you're going to have 3 floats in there. So you have your low water float. That's to tell you, okay, it's pumped that chamber out, turn the pump off. Then it slowly fills back up, and you've got your float to trigger the pump to tell you when it's hit a certain level and dose the soil treatment area. And then you have your high water float. Your high water float is so that if your pumps doesn't work, it will set off an alarm and alert you that your pump chamber is just overflowing, so that your alarm isn't your toilet backing up into your bathroom or flooding back into your house. That we've found so far is probably the 3rd most common inspection failure, which requires a repair, is not having a high water alarm. So when talking to your sellers, if they know about their system and they know they have a pump or a siphon chamber, it'd be wise to ask them, are they aware if they have a high water float with an alarm? That high water float alarm needs to be on a separate circuit from the pump chamber. And so just 2 weeks ago, we did 8 inspections, and 2 of those inspections were, or sorry, I guess it was a week ago. Anyways, they required, that's what was needed. We had to get an electrician out there and run power so that that high water float alarm was installed and on a separate breaker. And then lagoons. If you don't know what a lagoon is, it's going to be what looks like this quaint little pond with cattails that may or may not be fenced in, anywhere from 100 to 400 feet out from the house, somewhere out on the property. This is not, it is not a quaint little pond. It is it's the old style of a soil treatment area, and it allowed that it would essentially evaporate the levels. And but if I were to come out full and was like green or overgrown with vegetation, it would get a fail. It's something is not working or operating right. And unfortunately for your seller, what that means is now they're going to have to install a soil treatment area, because not just San Juan Basin Health, but the National Association of Wastewater Technicians, in conjunction with the EPA, do not allow lagoons to be installed anymore. They're just not a safe.
I'm going to break in and ask you a question. So this is
Yep.
where I had written down a bunch of questions for you. So lagoons are no longer okay when you're building a tank or when you're building a system. If you have a system, it's not going to fail just because it's a lagoon, but it
Correct.
has to be working properly for it to pass. Now, if you don't have a fence, is that a reason to fail? And you have to get rid of it, or you just have to build a fence?
It just means it needs to be fenced in. So
it's more about the system and whether it's working properly.
Yeah, and so a side note on that specific question: San Juan Basin Health does not require any sort of repair permit if the repair does not involve the functionality of the system.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
So if you need risers, we'll put risers in when we're inspecting it. Actually, we're just gonna put risers in because you need that to pass. If your lagoon needs to be fenced, that's something we'll offer to do. Sometimes the homeowner, they want to do it themselves, but you need a 4-foot, really just needs to be chain link or welded wire fence that essentially keeps wildlife and children
and my kids from going into and saying they played in the pond. Yeah.
I lived in a place in Rafter, Jay. It was not fenced in, and the bears would come through our property and they like to play in our lagoon. And I know a couple other agents in the office that have had the similar thing happen. That was before I knew why it would even be fenced in. I just thought it was like, well, that's kind of gross, but whatever, they're bears, Well, should probably fence. I should probably let the homeowner know they should fence their lagoon in.
Sorry, I need to clarify that because I got confused. So if they have a lagoon, they can continue to have the lagoon, or that is now illegal.
Yes.
They need to
Yes. So if you have a lagoon and the outer berm is in place, not eroded away, it's not. As long as I don't see visible signs that let's say you had family in town for the weekend and you ended up doing laundry for 8 people that weekend and running dishes and all of that, your lagoon's going to raise up. It's not going to overflow, but that lagoon level is going to fluctuate. And so as long as I see that you have more than 2 foot clearance from that high water mark, then that's going to pass. It needs to be fenced in. There needs to be, there can't be standing water that appears to be, several feet deep. A couple feet of standing water in there is okay. It being bone dry is okay. But if it looks like a pond and there, then that would raise my first response is I would reach out to the homeowner and see what's been going on for the last couple days. And if it's like, oh, we've been running our dishwasher and washing machine nonstop for 4 days, well, that would probably indicate why the lagoon is full. And then the other is I'm looking for vegetation. So if you have some cattails in there, yeah, that's okay. But if it's like overgrown and it just looks like a lush bird sanctuary in there, that would be reason for not necessarily a failure, but some work would need to be done. Now, we're doing a repair on a property for Daniel Cohen that the lagoon just needed to be cleared out. It's 45 years old and it had just slumped in enough. There's a little bit of vegetation. And so in order for it to meet regulations for it due to the size of the house, we're just digging that lagoon out.
Can I ask another question about
Yeah.
like, the difference between black water and gray water? Can there be separate sort of systems for that, or does the county just count that all as the same sort of treatment?
So there are separate systems for that. And if you wanted to separate that out and break that up, there are ways to go about it. It's costly. But there are places. A great commercial example is the Speedway, the old Giant on 160 West by Twin Buttes.
Mhm.
They designed that whole property to separate out, and so they've got black water that goes into the central sewer, and then they have gray water that gets. They have like a whole system there, and they use that gray water to irrigate their property and those trees and any grass there. So, but
And that requires different permits, I'm imagining.
yeah, and
all of that.
I mean, honestly, I haven't dealt a whole lot with that other than knowing that for the most part, the county looks at it is any, you don't want your gutters draining into your tank.
Yes.
You don't want your French drain to be draining into your tank, but any sinks in your house, toilet, laundry, dishwasher, all of that should be going into your tank. And then just trying to be conscious of what you're putting down the drain. You want to avoid, paints, solvents, too many
Bleach.
chemicals. So there's some great, that leads me to some awesome, myths about septic systems that I've heard and I've read about. One of them is dumping bleach down your drain will help break the solids down and allow you to not pump the system.
That's
That is a
terrible.
lie. That bleach ends up in the soil treatment area, and you're essentially bleaching the groundwater on a very diluted level. But another one, I like this. If you add high levels of yeast, dry instant yeast, and dump that down your drain, that will actively eat your solids. That is not true. That's not what yeast does. So let's say I go out to your system and I open it up. We run our operations, or I open up the lid and your tank's only half full. And I talk to the property owner and they say, yes, somebody has been living here. We actively live here and use the system. I'm going to stop my inspection right there. I'm going, and I can tell that you have a cracked tank. I'm going to look closer to see if it's at the inlet or outlet, but most likely your tank is draining out somewhere else.
What was the problem? How do you know?
Sorry, our neighbors not allowed. Here. So if I open the lid to the tank, I want to see a static level that.
Hold on, we lost you, Aaron.
Right below the inlet pipe and lid, and the tank's half. Can you hear me?
It's your network bandwidth is low, so it's like you sound slowed down.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I open your tank and your tank appears to be half full, then most likely you have a cracked tank. We will probably pump the tank at that point to confirm, pump the tank, empty it, and then inspect the inside. But if you have a cracked tank, you're going to fail the inspection. So now you're looking at a major repair permit. It's about $973 to San Juan Basin Health. And then the installation of a new tank, depending on the size, the type, you're probably all said and done with the permit, a minimum of $4,000 to replace a tank. And that could go up.
What is the material of the tank usually? Is that just cement?
Concrete.
Typically they're concrete. Plastic tanks have become very popular. When they first came out, they weren't built right, and so they would collapse a lot. They weren't strong enough. They've redesigned them, and I was talking with this excavator the other day who dug a tank out for us, and he's like old school, and he just is like, I don't work with plastic tanks. They're trash. But if you do some research and talk to some of the designers in the industry, plastic tanks, I mean, they now build them strong enough, and they can withhold. With that said, whether it's cement or plastic, your tank should not be somewhere that you're like hanging out on top of it. You don't want it, say, underneath your driveway, like one we found about 2 weeks ago and had to dig out and then let the homeowner know, please don't park over there because you were parking on top of your septic tank. Most common is concrete. What is allowed by San Juan Basin Health is concrete and plastic. If we open it up and we find that you have like an old metal cistern style tank, that's immediate failure. So that could be a failure. The other piece that's a failure that will just require a repair permit is if your aerator is missing. So a lot of times you'll have two green lids and then in the center a cement lid with a small little like green 2-inch diameter cap on top of it. That's going to be your aeration chamber, that aerator that I showed you. And most people don't, the way they used to be installed is they were hardwired in. And that pump is sitting in such a caustic environment that they don't typically only last 3 to 5 years anyways. So it would die, it'd stop working. The homeowner would throw it away. They'd never replace it.
Oh.
And San Juan Basin Health requires that to be put in. So if that's something, we've done half a dozen of those just in the last couple weeks, where it was either non-existent or it was one of them, the system had backed up and they're essentially killing the aeration pump. So you're looking, depending on who you go with, for us, we charge $850 to replace that. I've seen quotes as high as $1,800 to replace an aerator. But that is something that requires a permit, a repair permit, $373 to San Juan Basin Health, and then a licensed installer to install that aeration pump.
So you have to
Um,
do it every 3 years. You have to get a new pump, but you're also extracting everything every 3 to 5 years.
correct.
And you have to get the permit for the aerator every time you install. Do you also have to get the permit to extract every time too?
No, no, no.
Okay.
So to just pump the tank, you just give us a call and we go out and pump the tank.
And what do you guys charge generally for
We
that?
charge $4.25 for a 1,000-gallon tank, $4.50 for a 1,250-gallon tank, and $4.90 for a 1,500. And our website, mountainseptic.com, we have a pricing page on there, and it breaks down what our inspections cost, which are
You just
$400.
say okay, 400.
Yeah. And and there's a wealth of information. So I implore you to check out our website and see what we have on there. But we're right there. We came in right at the industry standard. If you're, there, the truth of the matter is, talking to all the other companies, there's still not enough companies in the area. And I've yet to come across any of the local septic pumpers that, aren't, you should obviously work with us, but we also can't get to everybody. And it's better that you pump your tank on a more regular basis to keep the tank running efficiently.
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. It's Stacy. As far as permitting and paperwork and transfer and, I guess it's transfer of title, do you guys take care of all of that as well?
So yes. So what the real reason that I'm here is to tell you guys what I can offer you. No, really, I wanted to give you information on septics, but so Mountain Septic, because we were in real estate, we saw the headache and the need for coordinating with San Juan Basin Health, the property owner, the real estate agent, potentially an engineer, an electrician, all of that to make sure that the septic system meets code and passes, and you guys are allowed to just work with your client, get them to the closing table, move them on, get the buyers in, and get your commission check and continue to be rock stars. And so if you guys hire us, you get a listing, you give us a call. If you go on mountainseptic.com, we do have a transfer of title concierge page, and that breaks down everything we do step by step. But what that involves is you give us your client's contact info, and we coordinate with them. We ask them, we have an intake list of questions. Are you aware of your system? Do you know where it is? Are your ports accessible? Are they above grade? Are you aware of any recent backups or any issues with the system? What is your water source? Do you have a well? Okay, where is your well located on your property? Because the one of the pieces of that inspection is we need to provide a map with distance and drawings, because if they see that for some reason your septic tank is 20 feet from your well, they're going to make you move your tank. Typically,
Gotcha.
I've yet to see that happen, but so we handle that. There is a $90 fee to your seller for transfer of title. In the event that they have to do a repair, that goes in place of that transfer of title. So let's say we inspect your system and you get, a glowing review. The system's great. It passes the test. Then you're looking at $90. We coordinate with your seller for them to fill out what they need to fill out. We help them fill out the rest. We submit that along with the $90 that we just include on the invoice to your seller. So your seller's just paying one person. We handle all the transfer of funds and all the transfer of documents to San Juan Basin Health. We coordinate with San Juan Basin Health in case they have any questions about the inspection or the system. And then they go, yep, you're good. Here's your transfer of title document. And then we deliver that to you, to your seller, and to the title company.
That's fantastic, Aaron. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you. All you had to do was call us. Now, let's say we give it to them and they go, oh, you need a new aerator, or, oh, you need to fence in your lagoon, or, oh, you need, you have a 5-bedroom home and it's permitted for 3 bedrooms. So that what's the most common question we've received is just that. Well, my sellers say it's a 4-bedroom house. They've lived in the 4-bedroom house for 35 years. This permit is BS. It says it's 3-bedroom. This is bogus. They've never had an issue. Well, I get it. And I totally understand the frustration from your seller. But the reality is, if the permit says that it's a 3-bedroom and they have a 4-bedroom house, the 2 ways forward is, one, if that 4th bedroom is really just an office, then we just make note of it in the inspection report. San Juan Basin Health, they're not, I mean, some people think they're evil, but really they're not trying to just like make everybody's life hard. And so they're just going to make note. There's technically 4 bedrooms, but historically speaking, it's been used as 3 bedrooms. When they look at a bedroom, they're looking at 2 adults per bedroom. That's how they're doing the math. And so if you have a 4-bedroom house and they're like, but it's only been a couple and they raised their 2 kids there, you know, like they're going to take all that into account. And for you as a realtor, what you want to do is just disclose that to the buyer is, hey, look, it is a 4-bedroom house. It has historically been used as a 3-bedroom. The 4th bedroom is usually an office. But if and when you go to sell, your home is only permitted as a 3-bedroom. So you just need to be, now, let's say it's a Airbnb and you have 4 years of active record showing you renting it is a 4-bedroom house. San Juan Basin Health is going to have you update that system.
And I'm going to break in and let you know that Gina and I feel very strongly that if you have one that's mismatched like this, that on the listing side, you do not go put it in as a 4-bedroom in MLS, because you are opening yourself up for a huge liability. You put it in as 3-bedroom, or they need to fix the system.
And, you know, and one thing, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure some of you have seen, I sold a house out in Hesperus that was overbuilt on the property. It was an 8-bedroom home. There were not 16 people that lived in this house. It was, you know, it was a family of 4 that had overbuilt their home. And, you know, it was like dad had an office, mom had an office. Each kid had their own bedroom. Then they had a playroom. Then they had a TV room, you know. So like Heather and Gina are saying, you know, it's wise to just, you know, go talk to them, walk through before you list that, because if you market it is way bigger than it's the system, you're going to open yourself up. Now, like we've worked through some of these problems when it's been more, you know, 1-bedroom up. However, we have 2 deals right now. One, we're subcontracting out the work because they're going to need a new soil treatment area, and we currently don't have the capacity to get that job done. The other one I'm doing the work for, and it's expanding a system. It's cleaning out that lagoon. And what it is that original permit was for 3 bedrooms. It's a 5-bedroom house. The engineer went out and he said, this lagoon's so old, it's just eroded in. If you get in there and just clean it out, you're not making a new lagoon, you're not doing new construction, you're just cleaning it out, it will accommodate a 5-bedroom home. And so then what that homeowner's looking at is $473 for a change of use permit, $1,000 for to do his work and certify it, and to clean it out. So in that instance, they're paying, I think it's $3,200, all said and done, and they're going to be able to close their house on June 7th or May 7th, whatever, and be good. This other property, it was a 3-bedroom home with a 3-bedroom septic that was built in the 90s, and 5 years ago they built a detached or a guest house, a 2-bedroom guest house, and never updated the system. The tank is 1,500 gallons, so that accommodates 5 bedrooms, but the soil treatment area does not accommodate 5 bedrooms. So in that instance, they're actually building a separate soil treatment area in conjunction with the original one in use, and adding another junction box so that tank, it'll flow in, hit the first junction box, and then spread out to 2 separate soil treatment areas.
And is your company
Um,
doing that?
Now those guys, what's that?
Is your company making the new soil treatment area and connecting it to the other? And
No, not that particular job. No, we are not.
Okay.
That is a service we will be offering.
Okay.
Currently, we just don't have the capacity for that particular job. So,
but you could steer us in the right direction, though.
oh, absolutely. We
Okay.
have 3 other companies with those sellers. We said, hey, here's what's going on. Given your timeline, you're under contract. You're set to close May 20th. We cannot make that happen for you in that
Okay.
time. However, here are 3 people that we know that can do the job, and we gave them 3 names, and we offer that service. So just so you guys know, for your sellers, when it comes to now, you're adding all these other contractors. We're getting someone else do soil treatment area. We're having an electrician come in and run power to set that high water alarm. We're doing all of that and coordinating. So above and beyond just filing the transfer title paperwork, we will act as your transaction coordinator for your seller to communicate and work all those in-betweens for them for a base rate of $140.
Awesome.
And that, we make the phone calls and we coordinate all that for them. And then we pay the contractors ourselves, and your seller gets one invoice from us that covers all of the fees.
That's great.
Aaron, real quick question.
Yeah.
Do you know, will the county give you a building permit if you have a 3-bedroom house and your septic is permitted for a 3-bedroom house and you want to add a 4th bedroom? Will the county give you that building permit if your septic isn't permitted for a 4th bedroom?
It depends from what I've gathered. If they technically no. Technically, when they give you that on an existing home, they should pull that septic permit,
Right.
which at that point they will say, we will only grant this building permit upon a change of use permit applied to the current septic system, which could be adding another tank. So let's say you have a 1,000-gallon tank, 3-bedroom home, and you want to put a 4th bedroom on. The soil treatment area could be large enough, but you don't have a big enough tank. They sometimes will go, all you need to do is add another 500-gallon tank, and we're good.
Do you guys do that? Do you add on to the
Yes.
systems or no? You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Both Mark and I are licensed installers and repairs. The reality is we're only 4 weeks into business. And so as of right today, we don't have the capacity to be doing a ton of those installs, but we have truck number 2 and 2 employees being hired in the next couple weeks. So by mid to late May, that will very much be in our wheelhouse.
So say you call it a bonus room.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not technically adding a bedroom, that's where, if you're adding a family room, a bonus room, an office, that does not change the septic system size as it pertains to county code and regulations.
Right on. Really good information. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron, I got a question for you. So it used to be that the septic rules were you needed 3 acres to have both a well and a septic on the property. Now that if you had an old lot, you could do it with 1 acre. You couldn't do it with a 0.99 acre lot. It had to be an acre. But then I understand that something happened and you can do it on a smaller lot. Like there's a way for septics to be installed on a lot that's like one of those half-acre lots, even if there's a well on it.
Yeah. So, well, yes. You're going to spend a lot of money.
It just costs a lot more. Okay, so it's a certain kind of design or something
so
like.
what they have, I had a neighbor that had this system on his property, and they call that high efficiency.
Right, that's what it is. Okay.
And so a high efficiency system is typically going to have, so like I talked about, if you have a siphon or a pump chamber that you're dosing your soil treatment area, that allows your soil treatment area to be smaller.
Right.
Well,
you were
now
saying
you
that.
add it. Now you add an aeration chamber and an aeration pump. That makes your soil treatment area smaller. Well, now you add a high efficiency system along with a grinder. That makes it even smaller. My neighbor's system was designed to where he didn't need, like, he doesn't have to have his system pumped. He pays a technician to come out to his house twice a year and service his system. But it is so high efficient that everything goes in there, basically disappears, and like clean, borderline drinkable water trickles out.
Okay. Then I stand corrected, because I had heard that and I just didn't know that was the
And
case.
so
It's just a
there's
matter of money, and it's legal
in the
in Plata County.
installer's course I took, there was a great example of one up by Perg.
Yeah,
and
that's where it was.
And there was a house, there was a creek, there was a well.
This was like purgatory. It was a small lot. Yep.
And they fit this system in an area the size like of you and Gina's offices combined.
Yep.
And I mean, hats off to the engineer and the installers, how they made and got that system in there and functioning. And okay, and San Juan Basin, he said it. Josh Batchelor was like, I went out and inspected it, and he was like, I was blown away. I was like, good job, guys. Like, this is amazing. And it's doing its thing as we speak.
So I want to wrap up. Anybody else have some quick questions for Aaron? Jump in if you do, but I wanted to wrap it up by just saying thank you so much, Aaron. I couldn't have, I don't know what you know about septics at all. Wrap it up by saying, if you have a septic and you're doing a contract, you absolutely need language in your listing contract. You need language in the contract to buy and sell, right? Go into our clauses and look through them. It basically is explaining there is a septic system. And once you get into the contract period, who's going to do the work? Can it be done? By when? And what if something goes wrong? Who pays for it? So just be aware to do that. And that's it.
And
Aaron, you have any wrap up?
Yeah, on that note, I know we're not thinking about winter because it's almost May, but when you go to list a house in December and it has a septic system and it's up at Perg and it's under 4 feet of snow,
yes,
you can still list and sell that house.
Yep.
And what will happen is you call me and I go up there and I go, yep, it's buried in snow. I can confirm that. And you have language in the contract that states that, and you work into an agreement. So the seller or the buyer, however you structure it, will pay us in December. All the work is paid for. In the event that it's super old, they may escrow funds in case a repair is needed. And all that's set aside. You close in December. You guys move on with your life. I have it on my calendar. The ground thaws. April rolls along. I go up to that new homeowner. I complete the inspection. I file all the paperwork with San Juan Basin Health. The buyer's happy. The seller's already moved on with their life. You've already spent your commission check. And San Juan Basin is super happy with what's going on. So, all of this can happen year round. They did structure it so that even though it can be kind of a pain in the butt, they designed it so that you don't have to wait. They realize we live in the mountains where it does snow and the ground freezes. So that's all I have. Thank you guys for listening to my rambles. And
Aaron, you're amazing.
If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Check out our website, mountainseptic.com. Shoot me an email at either aaron@realestatedurango.com or aaron@mountainseptic.com. There are no stupid questions. Please just, let me know. And I'm sure I'll be seeing all of you guys around.
Hey, Aaron.
Partners are absolutely amazing.
I turned the recording back on to get that, so they'll have that.